At the end of the Millennium Development Goal era, the critical unfinished part is the deaths of women, newborns and stillbirths, and midwives are poised to make the biggest difference for that.
So today's the launch of the Lancet series on midwifery, and it's exciting and scary, and it's 2.5 or 3 years of work coming together on one day where we really present everything that we've done together.
The Lancet series on midwifery is a series of 4 papers looking using a different range of research methods at the strong evidence now that we know that underpins the importance of midwifery for mothers, for babies, for families, for communities in low and middle and high income countries across the world.
So we at WHO think this Lancet series in midwifery will make a significant difference because it really focuses the attention on the quality of rights-based care from the perspective of women and newborns. And for the first time in decades, it provides the evidence that we need through a quality of care maternal newborn health framework that will enable donors and others to invest in strengthening the quality of midwifery services provided.
I think this series not only sets out the practice and the research reality and questions for that in countries, but also gives a moment at which we can think differently about how midwives work with paediatricians, with obstetricians and others in a team setting.
In this era of evidence-based medicine, in an attempt to provide high quality care, I think the Lancet series is going to be a critical source of information for obstetricians, midwives, organisations and health policy makers to use to ensure that we're providing the best possible care for women and have the means to do so.
I think it has a huge potential to make a great difference. Every now and then something very special comes along, and this is an extremely special series. It's challenging, it's creative, and it's constructive. So it's everything in one. It's all the evidence that any policymaker would need to help them to look at what sort of maternity services do they want to provide, how do they want to provide it, and what are the skills and the education of the people, the midwives that they need.
I think that as International Confederation of Midwives, this is what we want to see as working with stakeholders, where the midwife becomes the pivot around which the interdisciplinary model of care revolves, so that together we can make that change in maternal health. So I'm really excited about this.
Well, I think that the series is extremely important because it brings the evidence around the care that's needed during pregnancy, during childbirth, and in the early days of the baby's life and for the mother. We adopted last month at the World Health Assembly the Every Newborn Action Plan. It will be launched next week at the Partners Forum. And one of the key strategic objectives there is provision of quality care around childbirth and in the early days. But the issue is who provides that quality care. And so this series tells you who provides the quality of care, how it should be provided, and what midwifery services are needed for healthy survival of the mother and her newborn.
The Lancet series will make a great difference to the midwifery movement that is getting momentum in the world. It will really support them. It will make countries invest on midwifery education and the regulation, and it will expand and upscale the programs that there are on midwifery right now, for which UNFPA supports across the world.
There is a great sense of optimism and hope, and everybody feels encouraged that finally the august Lancet, the doctor's journal, is also joining this existing global movement to make sure that women are well cared for, and that this is at the centre of the political map, so that we can make sure that we have the change that we need in the countries that most need it, so that all women everywhere have access to safe, respectful birth.
I think that this work, the Lancet series on midwifery, will have a huge impact. It's a really significant piece of work. It's vital and it's substantial. And for the first time, it brings together both scientifically rigorous work, innovation, to create a quality framework for the care of childbearing women and their babies and their families.
In the UK and other developed countries, we need to think about this series in the context of our increasing over-medicalisation of birth. And I think what this will do is reignite that debate about what is the right level of intervention and what contribution midwives and obstetricians have in terms of taking some responsibility to encourage as normal a birth as possible within the constraints of providing a safe service. So I think that there are real potential improvements to be made if the evidence from this is taken into account.
I think in a country like America, where there's a very high level of medicalisation, yet many women don't have access to a midwife, that it really should have an impact there. Being in the Lancet, it has real status, and I think that policymakers should take note. So that's at one level of the scale. But then there are, medium income countries where there's huge populations, and sadly, very often, instead of spreading midwifery and making sure all women have access to that, they're going much more for the medicalised care, and it should make a real difference there too.
So a very important point that we want to highlight with the paper one is the risks that women are taking with the unnecessary use of interventions and the unnecessarians, the cesarean sections that are not necessary. These unnecessarians in my country, we estimate that over 1 million a year women are giving birth without the need of a cesarean section. And there is an association between the excessive use of unnecessary interventions and this sustained level of high maternal mortality in my country.
I hope this Lancet series will put the idea of midwifery on the international map so that women and babies and families can benefit from the balance that midwifery brings between excessive intervention and very high rates of maternal mortality and morbidity, so that we can get to a point where women have the optimum care possible for the optimum outcome possible through the vehicle of midwifery.
Because in Greece we have economic crisis, a lot of couples give out of pocket money during the perinatal period, and Lancet series could contribute to improve midwifery quality of care, and this also will be in favour for the women's health.
It's been great, actually. There's just been such a phenomenal amount of support for this series. There have been so many organisations that have really rallied round this series. I mean, the authors themselves have been so enthusiastic about it for a long time, and it's taken a lot out of them. I think it's been a long time in the gestation, and I think that's just such a testament to the work that's gone into this. It's scholarly, it's powerful, and it's in the Lancet, which hopefully will give it some traction as well.
My role today was to gather around all the wisdoms that we were taking away from the launch of the Lancet Midwifery series and provide a call to action that people could rally around. And for me, it was very important for us to know that we are starting with the person, with the woman and the newborn. And all this research is to be able to save the lives and better the futures for the women and the newborn.
I think a huge number of people attended today, and that was a marker of the importance that they put on this series. And it was a fantastic day. We had brilliant presentations. We had several perspectives which captured both the global, the local, the high income, the middle income, the low income countries. And I think that set the tone for all of us to act together. And for me, that's been very important, all the different perspectives, because it shows the application of what's in this document, the content of it, and we can all take something from it, and we can all go away and use it as a call to action and as an advocacy tool.
We will continue to work with the Lancet team to help them get this evidence disseminated and to use it in the documents and tools that WHO develops on behalf of these member states.
I think my hope for this series is that it brings midwifery to a much greater forefront as an important aspect of what all mothers and babies need, and focuses more on what is quality care and less on doing interventions for all women. So it's a balance of what all mothers and babies need and what some mothers and babies need. I mean, that's one of the essential messages.
My hope for the series is that the professionals, that is the midwives, the doctors, the managers, will start focusing on what is important, that is not the provider-centered perspective, but the women-centered perspective in providing care. Our paper is about health systems and midwives, but health systems and midwives do not exist on their own. They exist for a purpose, and the purpose is and should be the health of women and responding to their legitimate demands for access and for quality care.
This is now freely available, it'll be out there for everybody to use, and it's an incredible resource. Even the reference list of the publications is an incredible resource. Personally, I hope this helps people understand midwifery, helps people understand midwives, make sure that midwifery and midwives are absolutely front and centre of all of our services.
This series will bring to the forefront the needs of women and children in a country that is desperately needing of a provider of care, of a system of care that's more woman-centered and more woman-friendly. Midwives are the best thing for us Brazilians at this moment, and I think that for time to come.
My personal hopes are that this leads to a new era for respectful care for every woman and every newborn around the world, that there are a norm where there are enough midwives there to provide that care, that respectful care, and that those midwives are equipped not only to look after women but also to do the right thing for babies.